Hi everyone, this is How to Draw Comic Characters by Fabulous Art, and today we are going to draw Spider-Man, one of the most known and the most loved characters by Marvel Comics. I'm starting with a reference picture by Ultimate Spidey, who is a well-known cosplayer on Instagram. I am taking the reference picture because it's going to make it easier for me to create the scheme that will help me shape the drawing. I start by drawing a circle that will be the base for my head. Then I draw some lines to make me understand where the shoulders are, where all the joints are. For example, the elbows or the wrists. Then I join the lines together and I create the scheme of the posture. In this phase, we are just giving an idea of where things are. We are going to add on to that later, but for now, let's keep it simple and just make a scheme of how the character will be. As you can see, this is very simple, it's just lines, and now we are going to add on a little bit more. I'm choosing another color so you can see better, and I'm adding to what I have previously done. Having the reference picture underneath the scheme helps me a lot. But you can do this even when you use traditional media, such as, for example, just paper and pencil. You can recreate the scheme, and that will help you with the proportions and will help you understand where things should be on the paper. For now, I'm not precise, I just keep on sketching and adding a little bit of lines so that I know where things are going to be. When I will ink, it will be a bit more precise. As you can see, I am using the Quick Shapes tool in Procreate, which will help me do very precise lines. So here is the second part of the scheme, which gives me a little bit more shapes. And now I am starting to ink to draw the final lines that will make up my drawing. I take my reference picture and I keep it there so that I can see where things are going. It's very, very important to use a reference picture, in particular when you are beginning. When you are a beginner, you need something that will help you understand the anatomy of the drawing. A reference picture will make you more precise, more effective, and it will make you save a lot of time. The learning process is a lot easier and a lot faster when you use good reference pictures. Remember not to begin with poses that are too difficult to reproduce, because that is gonna lead to frustration. So begin with something that you can be comfortable with, something that maybe doesn't have too much perspective in it, and build on that. As you can see here, I am using another color on another separate layer to add some of the details of the clothing. I usually use blue for the details of the clothing, green for the first scheme, and red to add some details to the first scheme. Now, I need to draw the lines that will make the spider web of the clothing. The costume is a bit complex because of that, because otherwise the lines were very simple. I am drawing basing on the reference picture that helps me understand the perspective and the movement of the lines on the character. Sometimes some drawings seem very simple, but it's actually the level of details that makes a difference, that makes it look polished and finished. And sometimes the details are just a couple of lines. Here is the structure plus the final structure, the inking and the clothing. Now I am using a gray brush and I am going over the lines that I have created. I do this process because I needed the scheme to understand where the lines were going. And now I am doing the lines in a precise way. I am adding some movement to it, I am adding some particulars to it. So the first time with the blue, I drew straight lines. Now I am doing more curved lines to simulate the spider web effect. This is really a detail, but it makes a difference. You can choose how detailed you want it to be. Now I am going back to the layer of my inking, so the final lines of the drawing, and I am adding the details of the little spider. The very good thing about Procreate, or in general about digital art, is that you can redo and erase how many times you want. But if you are using a traditional media, like for example paper and a pencil, remember to keep it light. The trait should be very light so that when you add on or you ink your drawing, you don't have a mess. If you erase something, you don't have a mess all over the piece of paper. So now that I have the final lines and I have the spider done, I am adding gray inside of the spider on the same layer as the spider web. And this is the finished drawing with the inking and the gray lines. Now I am adding color. I am starting with solid colors and I am putting a little sign inside of the areas that I will have to fill in. We are going to go a bit faster here because solid colors are just filling in, and it's pretty easy if you use a digital art. And if you're using traditional art, it can be easy too. Just remember that you always need to use the right media. Whether it's acrylics or markers maybe, or graphite, or whatever you use, pastels or oils. Make sure that you try the color first on another drawing so that you know if it's going to be okay for your drawing. And then, before starting with the color that you've chosen, make sure that you know the media you're using and the tools you are using so that you don't ruin your perfect sketch. Now that the solid colors are done, we are going to go on with shading. Now, I am using the Alpha Lock function of Procreate. This is incredibly useful because it makes you draw and it makes you do things on that layer, but only on the part of the layer that is already colored. So this means that if you have to shade the head, for example, you will not shade or draw or color over the surrounding area. You are only staying inside the red. Remember that you have to consider direct shadows and indirect shadows. Direct shadows depend on where the light comes from. So you have to consider where the light is and which parts of the body or objects will be in the shadows. Indirect shadows are the ones that are projected by another object, so they do not depend on the natural lighting of the scene, but they depend on something else that is over another object. For example, here, the part of the waist is in a shadow, but because there are several other parts of the body that project their own shadow upon that part of the body. I recommend using at least two darker colors and one lighter color, because it is important to create shadows, but once you have finished, it is also important to use a lighter color to highlight some of the parts that are not in a shadow and that are hit by direct lighting. And now this is the thing that really makes a difference. Now I am using shadows and I am putting shadows on the layer of the spider web and the little spider. This is something that really makes a difference because it makes it more real, you see? It makes it deeper, it makes it more realistic in some way. So this part is very, very important. Never forget to use shadows on all of your layers, on all of the things that are visible. Here we are. When I'm satisfied with the body, I start to draw a little background, very, very easy. It's not important to really put good colors and make everything blended, because in this case it's not how you color but it's how you blend. And as you can see here, I am blending in all the colors to create the small background, the simple background for my Spider-Man. According to your taste, you can use a background that is a bit more complex or maybe more detailed. But in this case, I am choosing a simple one, a very plain one, because sometimes when you want to highlight an element of a composition, you need to keep it simple on the rest. As you can see, I am tweaking it here and there, adding a little bit of shadows and blending in everything very well. So until I am satisfied and I can put my signature on it. Here is the finished drawing. I hope you like it. If you enjoyed our video, leave us a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on our social media profiles. You will find the links in the description. Remember to turn on the bell to get notified on our next videos. And if you want to try to draw this character, please tag us or send us your drawing via email and we'll be happy to share it.